get up some mornings and you're so hungry you could eat anything. Literally, you could put anything in front of me and I'd eat it. Like this box of cereal. I'm gonna eat the whole thing now. It's a great time to start saving for the future. You want to make sure you've got money put away. You want to make sure you can handle the things that come up in life in the future instead of just reacting to people the way I do when I get to work and they're in my parking spot. I don't know why I get so aggressive and territorial. What is happening, fishing friends? Welcome to another episode of DEBO'S Fishing. It is that time of week and you are probably hungry for some fish food for thought. And well, I failed you. I'm sorry. You probably watched that intro and you're saying to yourself, I'm sure you are. Fish aren't ever hungry enough to eat anything I throw at them. Half the time I go out fishing is dead. The war of getting fish to react to my lure is over. And if that big fish doesn't kill my lure during spawn, well, it will have killed my last chance to catch a big fish for the year. Amazing. Every word that you just said is wrong. Learning when fish are eating your lure out of hunger is reborn today. And the war of getting fish to react to your lure is just beginning. And I will not be the last person to tell you that just because you missed a big fish during spawn doesn't mean you can't get one to act aggressively and territorial later in the year. So what are we really talking about today? Well, we're talking about the 3 different types of bites or strikes that you'll experience as a bass angler. So breaking those 3 down, I break it down into hunger strikes, reaction strikes, and territorial / aggression strikes. Now, hunger strikes is the first one I go over because I think most new anglers really think this is what fishing is like. They'll say, I wonder what the fish are eating today. Or they get out to the water, they get all set and ready, and they look in their tackle box and they say, I wonder what I should throw today. It's a whole nother subject. Fishing should be about the thought process, the mental preparation, not just guessing once you get out there, not luck. Determining the time of year, the time of day, the clarity of the water, etc., etc. I should be able to put a pretty good game plan together before I even get out to the water. So the hunger strike, what's it really mean? Well, you've all had those times where you flip your spinnerbait bit out, you're reeling it past the tree, and you see the fish come out of the cover, and he's following it. You're reeling slow. You're like, come on, eat it, come on. Oh, he just got it. That was awesome. I watched him come out and follow it. That's a hunger strike. He thought about it. He looked at it. He was making sure it was really what he wanted. He kept chasing it. Boom. Finally said, yeah, I'm hungry enough. I'm going to eat that. Or you've had the days you go out, you cast your lure out. It hits right by the tree. And literally, as soon as it hits, boom. That's something different. We'll get to that in just a minute. But the hunger strike. I bring this up because most new anglers will go out, throw a bait, and just reel it in. You know, you've taken people out like that. They cast a spinnerbait and they don't do anything with it. They just throw it out and reel it in. They think that as long as I get this by a fish and he thinks it looks real enough, they will eat it. And though that is true sometimes, that can create bad habits and create a bad experience for an angler. Let's say you take somebody out, you get on a hunger bite, you're throwing something that's close enough to what they're eating to where the fish are actively, aggressively seeking it. You've had those days where you go out and catch 25, 30 fish. It's like, oh man, fishing was awesome today. You take that same person out on a slow day where they're not actively feeding, they don't get a bite for 2, 3, 4 hours. They haven't figured it out. They were throwing the same thing they threw before. Why isn't it working? Well, hunger strikes, you can think about it when the fish are feeding, when the fish are actively looking, chasing food to eat. And if you think about it, when do people, in the summer say, oh, what's the best time to fish? Early in the morning, late at evening. Why? Generally, the fish are more actively feeding at those times. Hunger strikes. Or think about the times of year. Spring, spawn happens. After spawn, they often need to feed up to gain all that weight back. We're on to something here. Or how about fall? They're getting ready for winter. They're feeding up to put on the weight. Hunger strikes. Fish can be better in those times because they're actively seeking baits. Now, how does that differ from a reaction strike? Well, as we said earlier, you take a bait, you flip it out. It doesn't matter what that bait is. It could be an orange, I don't know, something that looks like a dog bone. You throw it out, as soon as it hits the water, bam, fish hits it. That is a reaction strike. It doesn't necessarily matter what the bait is, you got the fish to react. Now you can kind of think of this in regards of a dog in your backyard. You let the dog out in your backyard, he's sniffing around and he sees a rabbit. What's he do? Freezes. Slowly creeping up on it until that rabbit takes off. Boom, he's got to go after it. Or you're standing there and you accidentally knock something. Oh, you catch it. You react to it. You don't even think. The dog doesn't think. It's programmed to do it. Same thing with a fish. You're getting that fish to react to your bait. So out of the 3 bites, the reaction strike is by far the most important in my opinion. And think about it, you get to the high level, you watch the pros on TV. Now they don't go out beforehand and go, okay, is the bite good today? Is there a lot of fish? Yeah, we'll have a tournament today. Nope. They set the tournament, they've got to go out and fish whatever the conditions are, but you still see people catching lots of fish. Why? Well, guys at the top level and gals at the top level have mastered the reaction strike. Think about it, you've heard them talk about it. I was reeling my crank in, and as soon as that crankbait hit a rock and bounced off of it, the fish hit it. Reaction strike. Or I was throwing my chatterbait out and reeling it through the grass, and it got stuck a little bit, and as soon as I ripped it through the grass, he hit it. Those are reaction strikes. So what can you do to draw reaction strikes? Well, instead of just reeling in a straight line, you can add secondary motion, popping it if you're fishing a chatterbait, giving it little pops. It'll make that skirt flare. Or if you are fishing crankbaits or lipless, getting it to bounce off things. You can change the weight of your sinker or jig. If you're fishing a Texas rig and your default always, no matter what, you reach in your tackle box and go to a little quarter ounce, try stepping it up. Try going to a 1/2 ounce maybe. If that bait's falling faster and the fish doesn't get a good look at it, it's going to react and just grab it. I don't want to give the fish time to think about it. You know, you might spook him. You just want it to catch it out of the corner of their eye and react to it, eat it. That's what the reaction strike is. And the guys and gals at the top level are the best at doing that. And I think for a new angler, it's one of the scariest or hardest things to wrap their head around. You know, I don't want to be out there cranking it real fast. That's another way to draw reaction strikes. Try burning that chatterbait or spinnerbait. Doing things different besides just throwing your bait out and reeling it in a standard retrieve. Mix it up. Get the fish to react to your bait. Once you've mastered that, you will be a lot better angler. Last but not least is the aggression or territorial bite. Now this one comes up big, especially in the spawn season when you can sight fish or see fish. You put something in there, doesn't really have any interest in it. You reel it in. It's like, what? You didn't even bite it? Keep doing it. Keep popping it by him. Finally that fish gets angry enough that boom, it hits it. It's striking out of aggression, or you know, you're in its territory for too long, it doesn't like it. Now this one can be big, but it can also be very detrimental to an angler. You don't want to spend too much time on a spot going, man, I know this is going to be good here, I'm going to keep going at it. Or if you are fishing during spawn, is it really worth spending an hour and a half on one fish trying to get it to bite off that bed? I don't know. It's not my favorite way to go, but I have used this to my advantage. For example, let's say you hit a certain body of water and you know there's always fish on a certain piece of structure, a tree or a point. Every time you go there, you catch stuff off it. You're throwing a spinnerbait, you bring it by a couple times, nothing bites. Don't just leave that spot and say, oh, there's nothing there today. Switch it up. You might have to throw a Texas rig on top of that fish, you know, in that timber 4, 5, 10, 15 times. You might have to bring a topwater toad or a buzzbait over the top of that, you know, next to that tree 10, 15 times before the bass hits it. You've got to keep going in there enough to upset that fish to get it to strike. Again, you want to be in control of the fish. You're not always going to go out on days where the fish are hungry. So you really want to make sure that you learn how to master that reaction strike, vary your different approaches, reel it faster, reel it slower, make the weight go quicker, you know, add a heavier weight, make the bait fall faster. When you're fishing it, don't just fish it in open cover. Get it stuck in things, pop it free, bounce it off pieces of wood and rocks. Make the fish react. Make your bait do something different. And when it comes to the aggression and territory strikes, don't be afraid to focus on a spot that you're confident in for a little bit, but just don't spin your tires there too long. If you've thrown 3, 4 different things in it and you haven't had a single bite, it's probably time to move on. So I hope this video helps you. These are 3 things that have always interested me, and I think as you become more interested in bass fishing and trying to master it more, there are things that you'll pick up on and start to learn it during the way. Out of those 3 different bites, in my opinion, the reaction strike is the most important, because you can get a fish to bite your lure, eat your lure, when it's not hungry. You can turn a horrible day of maybe catching 3 or 4 hungry fish into 10 or 15 fish because you got them to react. So my question for you today is, what's the most successful way that you've changed up a presentation to get the fish to react to it? Was it adding a heavier sinker? Was it making sure you hit every piece of twig and timber when you bring your square bill through there? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below what your most successful way to get a fish to react is. So, hope this helps, guys. Until next Friday, I will see you next week. We'll see you till next time.